Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of the Henry Wildberry Show. Some of you recall I got these Pan-A-Racer Gravel King tires. I set them up tubeless. Well, I used up my Parimoto tires on the other rim, so I wanted to switch back to these Pacenti wheels, and I wanted to switch the tires over and get them set up tubeless. Well, as you know, when you set up tires, they do tend to stretch a little bit, so it makes it a little bit harder to reinstall tubeless tires. Now, last night I was able to get the front tire on, but I wasn't able to get the rear tire to seat again. And I don't have an air compressor here. I had to go down to the hardware store to do this the first time, but I wanted to see if it was possible to do this without an air compressor. So last night I got the front tire to reseat by first putting in an inner tube and getting the bead to seat on one side. Then I unseated it on one side and carefully pulled the tube out. And then when I went to inflate it with the hand pump, it actually worked. Well, when I went to do that again with the rear tire, I was not able to do it. And I put the tube in, I pumped it up, and then as soon as I deflated it, the bead would come unseated. So last night I put a tube in, I filled it with air, and I let it sit overnight. So my hope is that the bead is now more seated. It's now seated or stuck on here at least a little bit better. So we're gonna give this a try and see if we can get this thing set up to work tubeless. So what I'm trying to do is I'm gonna go ahead and, this tire has an inner tube in it. I'm gonna go ahead and deflate it and see if the bead has basically stuck to one side. Hopefully it has. Ooh. Well, might have stuck on this one side. Aha. So what I'm going to do is lift up this bead on this side. I'm going to unseat it from one side only. And pull the tube out carefully without unseating the other side. Okay, now we're going to put the tubeless valve core in and try to pump this up. Okay, so we just need to put this, I'm going to put this tubeless valve core in now. Oh, if this works, I'm going to be so excited. Of course, you can always buy an air compressor, or you could always buy tools to make this work, but I'm trying to do this without any special tools. Last night I tried using a CO2 canister. That was something that I found on the internet as a technique, but it didn't work because the bead seat's way too loose now. It's stretched out too much. Okay, now we're gonna seat this back on. Okay. So I wasn't able to get the rear tire reseated tubeless again using the tube method, and so I'm just going to put a tube back in for this ride, and then later on I'll go down and hopefully the air compressor will work. So on another video, I got a comment asking about this hat. Nicholas was curious where I got it. And this hat was actually, there's kind of an interesting story behind this hat. I got this in 2016. I bought it at the Grinduro event in Quincy, California. So a friend of mine bought a ticket that year, and he couldn't make it. So he offered it to me for, I think, half the price of what he paid for it. And then I had to pay for a transfer to transfer the ticket into my name. So I went up there, and I had a couple of friends that I knew were going to be going. So I decided to go do the event, and I rode that year, I rode it on my Specialized Expedition touring bike with Compass. Let's see, I ran Compass slick tires. They were 38s. And I remember pulling into Grinduro. The Grinduro event it's at the fairgrounds. That's where the event is held. And then the ride is up into the hills in the area. Anyway, when I pulled in, it was kind of late in the afternoon, and they check you in right as you're pulling in. And the guy asked me, and I was driving my van, and my bike was on the back of the van, so you couldn't see it. And he's like, "Oh, so what'd you bring? What are you gonna be riding?" And I said, "Oh, it's on the back." And he walked back there, and he looked at the bike, and he came back, walked around, and the look on his face was priceless. He's like, "You might want to take the fenders off." And I'm like, "Oh, really? How come?" And he's like, "Have you done the event?" And I'm like, "No." And he said, "Well, you might want to take the fenders off." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And I actually have ridden that bike with fenders on lots of technical terrain, and I had never had any problems before. But, I've never ridden the course, so I decided to go ahead, and that night, I took the fenders off, and which was good. I mean, you don't need fenders up there. It wasn't like, it was raining or anything. So I went ahead and just took them off just to be safe, to be cautious or whatever. And everything went fine. I mean, I did end up bending the rim on the last downhill single track. I ran into a rock pretty hard. I lowered the air pressure in the tires too much because I wanted to. Anyway, we're getting way off topic. So the hat was, there was a vendor at the Grinduro, this young girl, who was selling hats, and it was like Sunday afternoon. Pretty much the event was winding down, and I walked by her booth just to see if she had sold all the hats, and there was a couple left, and this one was one of them. And I picked it up, and I tried it on, and I wasn't going to buy it. I wasn't planning to buy it, but it was like one of the last remaining hats, and the colors were purple. I think the whole theme of Grinduro is purple. So anyway, I decided, I tried it on, and I was just joking around, and then I put it back, and then I started to step away from the booth, and then some guy walked around, and I didn't know if he was with her or what, but he walked up to me and he's like, you should really buy that hat. And I was like, okay. He goes, "No, it looks good on you." And I was like, okay. And so I figured he was just trying to help her because she made the hat, and I think he was just trying to say, we don't want to take it home, so just buy it. And I was like, okay. So I went back and I decided, what the hell, I'll buy this hat. And anyway, I bought it, and it's made out of a very interesting fabric. I don't wear it very often because it's very fragile, and it's starting to come apart at the seams here. So I just want to keep it, I want to preserve it for as long as I can, so I don't wear it that often. It's starting to come apart here. I think the fabric just doesn't, it's not a very durable fabric where it's sewn together, it just kind of separates. So anyway, it's kind of a neat hat. She did some little fun patterns on the sides. The inside is a different fabric, and I really like it. It's not a very good cycling hat. It's more just if you're at a bike event and you're really careful with it, it kind of gives you the resemblance of a cycling hat. But the rim is so flexible that when you ride with it, the wind actually blows it and it just kind of sticks to your forehead. So I don't actually ride it when I don't actually use it for bike riding. I just have it now to wear for videos and stuff like that. And but it is a nice hat. I do like the color. And if that girl's out there watching, I like the style. I like the way she did the top pieces. The patterns are really cool. The way she sewed this together, it looks good. Next time I would put something inside the rim to make it rigid enough so it holds its shape. But and maybe figure out a way to sew this fabric, because it does come apart at the seams. But anyway, that's the story of this hat. And I'm going to try to keep it for as long as I can and not ruin it. But that's the story of my hat. So you guys are probably not watching anymore, but if you are, we're going to head out now for a fun bike ride. And I think I'll bring the camera. I'll bring Miss Cools. You ready for a bike ride, Miss Cools?
Yeah.
Yeah, you gonna ride with me even though I'm not tubeless? You still ride with me?
Well, we're gonna be matching because I'm only half tubeless too.
You're half tubeless?
Mm-hmm. So together we make one whole tubeless.
All right. Well,
so if we just swap wheels, one of us could be tubeless, one of us not.
Yeah, we could just. I can give you my tubed tire and I can take your tubeless wheel.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Oh no.
All right. Well, let's go. Check out my sunglasses, Coles. I don't know. Yours aren't as good.
No, mine suck.
Here you go, Coles. Right out of the Star Wars movie.
Huh?
This is right out of the Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
The Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, I see an Ewok right there.
You see one? They're all over out here.
Yeah.
The theme of our ride today?
The theme of the ride today is we're totally confused.
Yeah, you got one strap on the outside of your sunglasses, one on the inside.
I didn't even do that on purpose, just ended up. And then our tires are all
You got a
mixed up.
tube. Is your tube in the front or in the back?
In the back.
So tube in the back, tubeless in the front. You would have gone like 20 seconds faster over that 3-hour ride if you had tubeless on the back.
Dang it.
20 seconds. Think what you could have done with that 20 seconds. Just think. I mean, you add it up over your lifetime. How many 20 seconds you add up? You're going to do 270 rides a year, and you're saving 20 seconds per ride. Think of all the time.
Wow.
Think of all that time.
That's
How many years do you plan on riding?
What is that? 540 seconds?
No, 5,000. 5,000
Oh.
seconds per year.
Yeah. 5,040. Yeah.
And you know there's 3,600 seconds in an hour. So that's over an hour.
Oh, dang it.
Yeah. So think about it that way. And if you plan to ride for like 20 years, that's like 20 hours of your life wasted.